Has anybody signed?
No one has signed up in advance. Is there anyone on the call who would like to make a comment? I'm seeing none.
Okay, we will move forward. So the first order of business is the approval of the minutes of our meeting for May 11th, 2026, and I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Trustee Zeller, and thank you, Trustee Mahali. Discussion on the minutes. Hearing and seeing none, let's call the question. All those in favor of the minutes of May 11th, 2026 signify by saying aye or raising their hand.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, terrific. The motion carries. Okay, next item. Um, the fiscal year 2026 preliminary unaudited financial results. This can be found in page 7 through 10 in your board packet. Each August, the committee receives an early look at the prior year's financial results before completion of the annual audit. The preliminary fiscal year 2026 results indicate a system-wide operating surplus of approximately 1.2 million compared with a budgeted deficit of 4.9 million. Toby Stewart will walk us through the preliminary results and of what we're seeing in underlying revenue and expense performance. Barry Hart will then offer some perspective on what these early results may mean as we look ahead. Toby and Barry will be available for questions. Management plans to return to the committee in November following completion of the annual audit with a deeper analysis of the underlying revenue and expense drivers and the implications for future financial performance. Toby.
Thank you, Chair Silverman.
You bet.
FY26 is preliminarily reflecting a $1.2 million positive operating result compared to a budget of $4.9 million deficit, resulting in a favorable $6.1 million variance to budget. Revenues ended $800,000 higher than budget. This is possible only through the one-time unbudgeted $5 million bridge funding from the state of Vermont. As a reminder, FY26 was the final year of bridge funding from the state of Vermont. The Community College of Vermont produced $1 million favorable student revenue to plan, driven by stronger spring and summer student enrollment. Vermont State experienced an unfavorable revenue variance to plan, driven by a $7.1 million shortfall for student revenue due to lower than planned enrollment and resident participation. Expenses for FY26 ended $3.8 million favorable to plan. Salary and wages were the most significant category, contributing to the lower budgeted expenses with a $4.5 million variance. CCV's expenses were on plan once reflecting the $1.5 million use of carried forwards transferred to fund the board-approved President's Endowment for Student Success in FY26. VTSU significantly underran expenses in the three major categories of salaries and benefits, supplies and services, and scholarships. Those lower expenses, combined with the use of the 1.1 million tuition restructuring set aside, offset all but 400,000 of their approved FY26 budget. In conclusion, the FY26 bottom line is 6.1 favorable to budget. However, the most significant favorable driver was a $5 million receipt of VSC's last bridge funding from the state of Vermont.
Thank you, Toby. Barry, did you have some things you wanted to add?
Thank you. First, I would say I've been here for a very brief time, and I am truly fortunate to be working with some very sharp people, not just Toby and his team, but Lit and his team and Nicole and their team, which really have been incredibly useful in getting into a deeper understanding. When I look at this, I think we've got quite a bit of work to do in the coming year, and I think we've got the team to do it. I am worried that VTSU underspent in scholarships. Like that's an area that we would like to focus on because that would ostensibly help increase the tuition revenue. But really getting in and getting a better understanding of the recurring revenue and recurring expenses and how we can better support VTSU as well as CCV is really what we want to do in the next 8 weeks to get ready for the November meeting and give you a deeper dive.
Thank you and welcome as well.
Thank you. It's very good to be here. I appreciate that.
Well, you and I have spent some time together, and so I kind of forgot that this was your first meeting. So welcome. We appreciate your being with us.
Thank you.
Questions from the trustees, and when I say that, I also include the committee liaisons for Toby. Mark?
Thank you, Barry. It's great to have you here. Sherry, it's wonderful to see you here. I guess I'd like each of you to comment on the $5.3 million tuition. I think it's 5.364 shortfall. Give us some perspective. What are your thoughts about that? Is it more than you would have thought a couple of months ago, less? Was there, you mentioned, Barry, or I guess one of you mentioned that it was at CCV, they had a stronger latter part of the year, which helped. So similarly, could you comment on the, was there anything that happened in the last semesters at VTSU that changed anything? Just, I think that's probably the key number in all of this. So I'd really like as much detail and thought, even if you don't know, at least your hunches about what this number means.
Sure. President Coleman, do you mind if I go or would you like to go?
No, I can follow you, Barry.
All right. I think it's a great question, and you are absolutely right. It is the key number in this entire presentation. I think we're going to hear later on the fall enrollment assumptions and the online acceleration program. We certainly are experiencing sort of a weakness in that traditional 4-year undergrad residential experience. And that does seem to be sort of in that traditional humanities, social sciences arena. So I think our goal is to really support Sherry, this online acceleration program, as well as her entire team to drive that number. Because Mark, there is no greater number on here than that. I don't know. Sherry, is there anything you wanted to follow with?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I agree with what Barry said, but I would also just say that I think there's some opportunities just operationally as we look at growth in both the traditional and online that we probably haven't focused on yet. There was so much work being done on bringing the separate universities together during this time that there's just some enrollment processes and procedures that we have not yet done, which we are now moving forward towards so that we can see growth in both areas. And of course, we're going to see growth in the online sector more, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But we do have our eye on that enrollment piece, I would say, but also just knowing that as this university came together, and so when Barry even spoke about the scholarship piece, well, there's a piece of technology that we have not implemented yet to be able to do that because everything is so manual that once we are able to do that, we will see the scholarship money being spent. But with our implementation of Workday, that wasn't the top priority. So it's really, again, it's as you're building this, we have to identify those priorities. the scholarship software will now become a priority because we're moving and making progress on Workday.
Was there anything like 3 months ago? I don't know, Beth, or who is best to comment on this. If you'd have seen, would you have anticipated this number, a greater number, or a lesser number? I mean, in terms of how we've done in the last part of the fiscal year. Or is this pretty much right on what we thought, like where we thought we'd be?
Well, I think that it is, and I'll ask Toby to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's fairly consistent with what's been coming through on each of the quarterly forecasts, right? And VTSU has been doing what they can to mitigate, both on the expense side and on the enrollment side. But it's pretty much in line, I believe.
And for Toby Jones, that would have been my thought as well, that these numbers are very expected. We've been watching the lead up to this, and so this was very expected.
Is the same true with the reduction in expenses, in salaries, benefits, et cetera, scholarship side?
Bless you. I believe it is, right? So the salary really is sort of just the normal churn and turnover and the delay in hiring. Those need to get filled, and I'm sure that with Sherry being here, getting her team in place, they will be filled. The rest of the expenses were, prudent expense management, knowing the situation. But once the machine is up and running, those expenses will return to full budget. I mean, I guess that's another way of saying I don't believe there's room to cut any further.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. My experience is after a certain point, you can't cut your way out of a problem.
No, we have to grow our way out
You
of
have to
this.
grow your way out. Yeah, right.
See Durfee?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Sorry, I was having some tech problems earlier, but I think the question that I'm going to ask hasn't been addressed. And just to follow up on Trustee Mahali's questions, and the responses, I think that these numbers seem very familiar. And if we look back at the reports that you shared back in May and previously, I think that they're more or less similar. I did wonder, I just wanted to get clarification though on the expenses and particularly on the staffing costs, whether those were all vacancy related or whether in response to a recognition 6 months ago or earlier even that we had a revenue shortfall coming up for the past fiscal year. Were there staffing cuts made at some point in the past 12 months? Is some of that what we're seeing here in that favorable variance on the salary and benefit line?
No, I don't believe it is. It really is sort of the open positions, the need to get President Coleman fully staffed and being prudent and taking time in that decision process, and just the normal churn. And keep in mind that also includes benefits, which are a significant portion of that salary number.
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Barry.
The questions from the committee or liaisons. Well, lest we focus just on misses, I'm interested in hearing from President Judy with regards to the improvement in enrollment and fees.
Thank you, Trustee Silverman, for that question. As I've said to this group before, when our enrollment is strong, I like to be able to believe it's all the things that we're putting in place. And then when our enrollment is weak, I also sometimes it's hard to explain that. But I will say our last fall, our enrollments were sort of level. Our enrollments for spring were strong. Our summer is strong, and you're gonna you'll see in November that I believe our this fall enrollments are strong. What do we attribute it to? It's a variety of things. I think that we continually work at making sure our programs are really aligned with what businesses want. We are doing a fair amount in the certificate area because people are looking for shorter term credentials and having them nested in our degree programs. I think our work with VTSU and other schools in terms of really creating really seamless pathways. We've always had transfer pathways, but I think really trying to build on that. I think that the teacher apprenticeship program between CCV and VTSU is a good indication that we're really trying to work at again making this stuff really easy. The default that CCV students have a place to go within the VSC when they're done. So I think it's a combination of things. I also think that, just in general, higher education is seen as really expensive. And if we can help keep those expenses to a minimum on the front end, people have more to invest then in their junior and senior years, as well as at the master's level. So I think it's a combination of new programs, really figuring out the modalities. I think you've heard me talk before. I've stopped using the word online, and really it's remote, because we offer 5 different versions of how people can access things remotely. Well, we're still trying to encourage as much as we can people to access face to face. Students really are choosing a lot of different varieties, and so modality is becoming a really big factor when people are making decisions about enrolling. So I think it's not one thing. I think it's a combination, and I hope it's that we are really responsive, and we do look at data a lot. And it's not that we look at data to look at data, it's look at data and what are we going to do about it? And so really being able to be really responsive in the moment is, I think, a hallmark of CCV, but it's not just about CCV. It's really community colleges. That's sort of we're young institutions by comparison to a 200-year-old institution. So we are scrappy. And so I would just say that that's pretty standard for community colleges.
If I can just piggyback off of President Judy, because everything she said is correct, but we are also seeing tremendous increases due to the 802 Opportunity Program. We just pulled numbers last week that I've shared with the governor. CCV has noticed a 44% increase in students who are eligible for the 802 Opportunity Program. They've had a 28% increase in the number of Pell eligible students. And this is over the time we've had 802 Opportunity. And this is the most important number, I think, a 60% decrease in the number of students who are needing to take out a loan to go to CCV. So this is a tremendous program. As we know, the Freedom and Unity is newer at Vermont State University and not in the base budget of VSAC, but they've even seen a 4% increase at Vermont State. And I'm hoping that when we get to our legislative session, we can share this really good news with the legislature and that they will put this for Vermont State into the base budget. So I just wanted to add that piece. But I think both President Coleman and President Judy really deserve a lot of credit for a lot of the innovative ways that they are thinking about our enrollment and how we're serving Vermonters.
Excellent. Thank you, Chancellor. Trustee Zeller.
I wanted to go back to a comment that Barry made, talking about the shortfall in enrollment, and that it was primarily residential students, but also in the humanities area. I guess I'd like to hear what President Coleman thinks about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of what we have to look at Vermont State University, and I'll talk about it more in depth a little bit down the line here, but I would say that we also have to look at how we are creating skills within the humanities. I think there is a blend when we're looking at micro learning and the credentialing piece. There, it's a both and that we have to look at. But I would also say we need to look at how we're marketing our programs, who we're marketing them to as well. So there's again, I always go back to the last couple of years have been merging these universities, which took a huge lift. And so now it's time for us to really focus in on each of the programs. We're doing that right now and saying, what makes sense. But I would say what makes sense right now is when we look at humanities, we also have to highlight those skill sets. And it's, I call them power skills. A lot of people call them soft skills.
If I could just tag on Trustee Zeller, it's actually a trend in today's job market that you're seeing nationwide. But to what President Coleman said, I often tell people the very best financial analyst I ever hired was a psychology major because she wanted to know why every single time. So I have hope for the humanities and the social sciences.
David, can you see Lena's got her hand up?
Is he frozen?
That's nothing for her to speak.
Oh, okay. You were not verbal. Okay. I just want to say that I think that we're in a lull. I think we had all the momentum of the first 5 years of our strategic plan from the legislature. And at some point, I think the $25 million that we were supposed to do, 5 million each year, was a little bit of a guesstimate. And we did pretty well with it, actually. But I'm not really surprised that we came up a little bit short toward the end. There was a lot of second guessing from legislators as we got toward the end of that fourth year or so, and we had buyouts and things for the faculty. I mean, our program array, our faculty attitude towards the changes we need to do are still in need of being continued. We're at a new phase. This is really like the real transformation. What we did early was easy. We had Mike Smith come in and he arranged, Mr. Fixit arranged to get buyouts and work with people. And he told them not to worry. They didn't have to make this decision. He would do it for them. And he did. But we still have a lot more to do. And we are now trying to go and really get to the next step with our distance learning and the next step with CCV's done it for many years. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from what CCV has done. And there's some structural issues that we need to address, but we're now facing those. And so I'm not surprised that we're short with the deficit. And I think this is where we really have to buckle down and decide we want to go and take on the issues that we need to take on. I'm excited that Sherry's got a lot of enthusiasm and is ready to go. Sometimes a few of us might be a little gun shy because we've run into some headwinds and they weren't always fun. But I think we have to sit down and say, okay, now we go for the real transformation. And it's continuous improvement, and we've got to do that now. So that's what I think what we're facing. It's like a wave, it goes up and down, and we are now facing that, and we have to figure out how to make the next step. We are way ahead of a lot of other people in higher education. So I feel that we can do it. But that's my reaction to what we've been looking at the past year or so. I think I think trustee Silverman doesn't have the benefit of his
Yeah, I think.
software from his old office.
I just wanted to ask, could someone remind me of the schedule we have for developing the 27 budget?
Sure,
We're
happy
we're
to.
in 27. Do you mean 28?
Yeah, the 28,
Yeah. So we have actually begun working on the preliminary part of that right now, working through the Business Affairs Council and a new group that Chancellor Malk has pulled together with the two presidents and general counsel. We will be bringing the tuition or the tuition and fee schedule preliminary in November. What I think we call budget 1.0 is in February. And then budget 2.0 is in May, with the final budget approved in June. Chancellor Mock, I see you inquisitive. Did I get that right?
Yes, you do have it
Okay.
correct.
All right. Did that answer your question, Trustee
yes.
Mahali?
But also, in addition, could you tell me what is the projected tuition and fee for the 27 year overall?
Sure. Toby, do you have that number available? I do not know it off the top of my head.
Trustee Mahali, you're asking for the budgeted tuition and fee revenue for
Yeah,
this
tuition
current
and
year?
fees, yeah.
I will get that for you in a second. I don't have that
Sure.
off.
Thank you.
Let me try again. Can people hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. This home office thing is harder it's hard for me. So the last Trustee Durfee, you have a question.
I do, but if you were going to say something, David,
No, go ahead.
okay, yeah, just Toby, while you're looking for that, I think maybe I heard somebody earlier say that somebody might be sharing early, not budgeted numbers, but like enrollment figures for the coming fall, or some kind of an update on where enrollment stands for
That-
September.
Yeah, it's early now, so that will be in we won't be saying anything publicly about that.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think David might have lost his voice again.
David, are you there? No, he's lost his voice.
Trustee Mahali, as the vice chair, would you want to move the meeting forward?
Well, I certainly have no other questions and really want to thank you all for the presentation. Do other trustees have any final questions on this point?
And Toby, I see you came off mute. Do you have the numbers for us yet?
I'm almost there. I'm sorry, I don't.
I don't see any reason to wait. Toby, you can break in and tell us when you've got it. The next, I don't know, David, are you there? Lynn, did you want to say something? Your hand is still up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have about 15 things probably on the chancellor's plate and the president's plate and all of the administrative teams at any one point in time in the past 5 or 6 years. And I think we talked about this a little bit, you know, you got to do a little bit here and then you've got to do a little bit there. And then there's more that's coming here. And now we got Workday. And so that's going to help us do this. And then we need to do that. And I think that this has been an incredible challenge. And we are now at a point where, again, we have to sit down and say, okay, what are the number one priorities? How do we go to the next step and the next step and the next step? And I think that this is something that I just want to thank all of the people, some of whom are no longer here, but thank all the people who've been contributing to this, because it's been an incredibly difficult situation to kind of, it was crisis management in the beginning, and it's still a little bit of crisis management now. But I think that, you know, I know we'll talk about it more in the board meeting, but there's all kinds of things there's all these pieces and parts that are coming together a little at a time. And so it's the financial thing is really important, but I think we have to recognize that we've been managing so much for so long that it makes it really hard to sit down and you know, you got to do one, you know, you got to take, you know, how do you eat a 900-pound elephant? You do it one spoonful at a time. And we've been doing that. So
Thank you, Toby. David, I'm just going ahead until you tell me that we can hear you.
Trustee Mahali, he just sent a message that he asked that you lead the meeting.
Okay, I'll try. Toby, you had your hand up? Do you have an answer?
Yes, the FY27 budgeted number for tuition and fees is $91 million, which compares to our preliminary FY26 tuition and fees.
Yeah, I see. It's
Yep.
kind of where we are.
Yep.
Okay. The next, I guess I just had one other suggestion. Mary, I see your picture. I don't know if you're here with us. Mary Brodsky?
Hi
Whoops,
there.
you are.
Yes, I'm here.
One of the things that, of course, is obvious on the budget is there's a substantial underspend in salaries and benefits, as well as, of course, and we've commented on it, scholarships. I just wanted to know whether you had any comment on that in terms of any sort.
I think that Barry covered it pretty well when he was talking about sort of the savings that we are seeing, that underspend is really due to us needing to be hiring for key positions in Sherry's area. And I do think too that if there are any dollars that we're able to address things that we are looking at systemically around particular positions for compensation by grade, for equity reasons or doing market comparators, you know, those are all pieces that it's part of our overarching strategy. But as others have noted, like we have been a little busy. We're still busy ramping up into the academic year and with the Workday implementation. But then we'll be able to turn our attention to those more holistic factors in the fall.
Thank you. Any other comments on the budget before we move on? Hearing none. I see Wilson's happy face has joined us because the next item is to talk about Workday. What's the update, Wilson?
Thank you, Trustee Mahali. I'm prepared to give a few slides. It will be a brief update, but the last time I spoke to you all about the Workday project was early June, and we were on the cusp at the time of the launch of the platform modules, which is HR, finance, and payroll. And I'm here to give a report to provide an update on the platform launch and talk about the beginning stages of the student launch. So let me find my slides here. All right. Can everybody see
Yep.
my slides?
I
All
believe
right.
so.
Okay. All right. All right. As I commented, we'll do a quick project timeline update. I'll provide a short recap of the platform launch, which occurred at the end of June, and then also provide a student implementation progress report. Just a reminder of kind of where we are in this cycle. This is a full 4-year project to launch the new Workday platform. You can see the row there at the top that's labeled HCM, payroll, and finance is the what they call the platform module, which is the core module for Workday. And the lower row there is the student platform implementation. And you can see that we're just in the beginning stages of the configuration phase there. The arrow in the middle being where we are today. So we're coming up shortly on the sort of the midpoint of the overall project, but we're still very much in the beginning stages of the student implementation. You'll also see in the middle there, particularly important for this group, we're also implementing the adaptive planning module for budgeting and planning. We'll be kicking that off in October, and it's intentionally aligned to match with our budget planning cycle for 2028 to provide us some additional tools that are part of Workday for budgeting and planning, running different scenarios and so on. And then we also are going to be launching the Prism platform, which is a Workday product that will allow us to do more advanced reporting. And most importantly, it allows us to pull data in from other sources and combine it with data that's in Workday to do some reporting. So a lot going on, obviously a busy slide, but it's important to sort of see where we are in the overall cycle. But the most exciting thing is that we have now completed that first implementation and gotten through the deploy stage for the HCM, human capital management, payroll, and finance. And I'm going to provide an update for that right now. Any questions on the overall timeline before I get into platform?
I do have
Yeah.
one quick question.
Go for it.
Could you go back to the, yeah. It does seem like the planning platform won't be ready for 28 budgeting. In other words, we completed in the first and second quarter, and we're still in the plan stage and testing stage. Is that correct? I mean, it'll be useful for the 29 budget, but not the 28.
Yeah. So as we implement, we'll be implementing the tools that will be available to us as we are complete with the implementation of budgeting, but it will allow us to, as we populate the system with our ways of forecasting and planning and other things like that, it will be part of how we build the 2028 budget this year. So it's really intended to be sort of a plan as you go type implementation. So we may have some better ability to do different scenarios or other things by the time we get to the end of the planning cycle for this year. But you're right, it will benefit us even more as we go into the 29 planning cycle.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions before we go on? Wilson, please go ahead.
Okay. All right. So for the platform project, we're successfully launched within the HR, finance, and payroll part of Workday. We've completed the first 3 payroll cycles, are on the cusp of cycle 4. We're very close, I believe, to finishing the first month-end close within Workday. And the teams have been doing a fantastic job of handling incoming user issues and cases. We currently have 155 4 open, but we've resolved over 1,000 cases already of people that had questions or issues that they encountered. For folks that have done this kind of work before, they're the sorts of things that you would expect as people are transitioning to a new system where they don't know where to find things or have some challenges doing the kinds of processes that they used to do before in the old system. And the teams have been fantastic at working through those. Toby's team on the finance side has just been phenomenal in being able to address the things that have been coming along. And the Workday team themselves noted that, we've got a lot of really smart and dedicated folks that are very service oriented to ensure that we're handling the things that come in. And Mary's team on the HR and HCM side has just been phenomenal at addressing the cases as they come in, and really has a great rhythm for how they address things, and have taken care of a lot of the issues that have come in as they've come in. And so the turnaround time has been fantastic, and really kudos to the whole team for everything that they've been doing. We're seeing a slight influx of new cases now as faculty and staff are returning for the fall. And we have more training sessions scheduled here in August and September to ensure that we can handle folks that are coming back and experiencing Workday for the first time. As we now are, over a full month on the new system, as I mentioned, that the teams have been doing a fantastic job of sort of addressing the individual cases that have come up. There have been a few things we've realized we needed to sort of rework that were unexpected. But for the most part, now we're transitioning from the deployment and stabilization period to what we call the production support model. The final Workday implementation consultants will be rolling off this week. There were a handful that stayed with us until the end of the first month close. And the internal team has been logging and prioritizing fixes and requested changes. And we're putting a process in place to make sure we're prepared to handle that. We also have a partner, a support partner helping us with consulting resources when needed. And believe it or not, we're beginning to plan for the next release of features from Workday, which will happen in the fall. And this is the cycle when they give us a preview of what's coming up, and we can do some testing and other things. So it's really sort of all systems go here. Obviously, still working through issues and challenges as you do for a big launch like this. I don't know. I'm happy if Toby and Mary want to say a word or two before I move on.
Wilson, these numbers, 1,000 cases, 150 open, are these kind of what you expected? Are they more than you can you give us a sense of the quality of the situation?
Sure. They're actually, I think, less than I would have expected given the size of the implementation. Now, as I mentioned before, we have some folks that are just coming back for the fall and encountering Workday sort of for the first time. So I do expect that we'll see, as I mentioned, sort of an influx of cases here in the fall as we get in there. But these were things like you might expect. We went through months of testing of the new system after we did the setup and configuration of the system. And when you're doing testing, you're trying to sort of anticipate what all of the possible cases are and what are all of the possible situations are for employees and others who are going to be interacting with the system. And you can never forecast every single scenario, right? And so what I would say is many of the cases that we've been dealing with are cases where you have 2 or 3 people that have a very unique case, and you need to sort of work through how to manage them within the system, because the system's primarily set up for the the bigger groups of folks that have common scenarios, et cetera. But you try and work through all of the different individual cases, et cetera. But I would say overall, they're the sorts of cases that I would expect. We've had some bumpiness in terms of with onboarding, how new cases get or new users get created and so on, because those are things that are hard to test in the earlier test phases. And now that we're in production, we're handling some of them manually, particularly for people that came in sort of in between phases, et cetera. But we're getting a lot of those issues ironed out here as we now are up and running. So I don't know, Mary, if you want to add a little more context to the sorts of things that we're seeing.
Thanks, Wilson. I appreciate that. And the opportunity and the kudos for the team. I'm incredibly proud of the team. Over 1,000 cases of individual responses going back to people, because every single person's issues have a slightly different flavor to them. So, we are really focused on customer service. It's been, as Wilson said, a successful implementation. This is a huge lift for the Vermont State College system and for the team, and we're stretched very, very thin. We've been focused on making sure that compensation has been correct in these last 3 payroll cycles, and we've been smoothing out some of our business processes, I would say, like the refining things that we've tested, or to say, hey, we need to be able to do this in a batch if we are going to be issuing corrections or transactions, because although everyone has their own particular needs, we need to be trying to work efficiently and not have things boomerang back. So there are a couple of business processes that we're saying, like, look, we understood why people had interest in making sure that this was accurate, but we have too many touches happening, and it's taking too long for things to process. So we're trying to make things more efficient as we go along. As Wilson noted, and I will say too, when we think about compensation for 3,000 different individuals in different roles, and some people who have multiple roles, to have 98% of the people be paid on time and correctly, like, that's a massive win. And for the people, that small, maybe a couple dozen individuals that there were issues for, it means it's something to them very personally when things were not happening quite exactly right from them from a compensation perspective. And so we have been taking our time to make sure that we are making those particular corrections and treating those people with care. As we move forward, where we are looking at, like, as Wilson said, some of the things that are related, but have been, to make it so that we're going offer an onboarding perspective and new hires and what that experience looks like, as well as some of our offboarding and the connection to other systems. We just made it, just recently, we had to do something to smooth out with our Cognizant business partners to make sure that when we have a future dated hire, that they would have access to the system once the business process was complete, and that they didn't have to wait until their actual start date. These are small nuances, but they really make a big difference for the people and their experience with how they come into the system generally.
Thanks, Mary. Toby, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'm echoing a little bit of what you and Mary both said, but I just wanted to share how proud I am of the teams and everyone internally at VSC that supported this effort, in addition to shouldering their day-to-day jobs as well. It's been a heavy lift, but it's incredibly rewarding. It's rewarding to see some individuals whose skill set suddenly comes to a whole new level when it's needed to support this implementation, which is very gratifying to see that. And I've heard so many horror stories from so many other individuals that and organizations that have gone live with a new ERP system. And I have to say that was the context. And we haven't seen, there's been challenges and there'll continue to be challenges, but we haven't seen those major obstacles to this point. And I just wanted to highlight, we had a ERP steering committee meeting recently, and the head consultant for Workday gave a shout out to the finance team, and just expressed what an excellent, talented, hardworking group that exists here, and just expressed her confidence in our team's ability to sustain the system. So I just wanted that felt very good to hear that, as most of the team has just been heads down, and to hear that broader perspective and recognition was very helpful.
Thanks, Toby.
Wilson, is that the extent of your presentation?
No, I've got a couple more slides. So I will move ahead unless there's any other questions or comments. The next stage, now that platform is moving towards more maturity and in the launch there, the next stages, or the next phase, is moving more directly to focus on the student implementation. And I know it sounds like we're just starting. We actually now have gotten through the plan phase and are starting the architect and configure phase or stage. So we're well into the project now. The plan stage is complete and signed off. We're in what they call the architect and configure stage, where we sort of build multiple iterations of the new system that will be live. Each iteration is called a tenant. And so we've built the foundation tenant, which is sort of the base tenant that we use to do the configuration and testing. And then we'll do that 7 more times as we go through the project. But we rolled out the student foundation tenant, and we're starting to focus now on design and configuration and testing. So the process here forward for the next year will be in the architect and configure stage. There will be 4 different, what they call work sets, which are each one is a stage of the project where we build something, test it, and then get ready to build it again, right? So after we've completed 4 work sets, then we'll be ready for end-to-end testing. And then in the fall of 2027, we'll begin to roll out different features to different audiences. So in any case, that's what we're working on today. In terms of issues and risks, you all know that I like to make sure that we sort of cover what our biggest potential issues and risks are in each presentation. Obviously, we had some overlap between the platform and the student work that needed to happen, and I think that caused us some extra capacity challenges, as we have people working on data conversion, for example, who were still involved in the platform project, needing to also now focus on student. The number and frequency of the tenant builds for platform is much greater for student than it was for platform. So it is a more complex project to manage. And the intensity and duration of the architect and configure stage is such that it will stretch our resources to be thin in many cases and in different functional areas. And again, it's a broader implementation. So we're watching that. We're adding resources when we can and adjusting the focus for folks as we get into the project. So that's what I have to report on for today.
Questions? Wilson, really congratulations to you, Mary, your team, as I think as was mentioned, those of us who have experience with ERP implementation, it can really be a nightmare. We've worried about that since we created the budget to begin with. And I think there are several people who have their hands up. Rick, Aaron, and VTSU faculty person. I see hands up. Would you like to speak?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Trustee Mulhaley. I've got more of a global question about Workday. Last Thursday, there was an announcement that Silver Lake Partners was in discussions to take over, to buy Workday. Typically, they're a global equities firm. Typically, they don't get involved in the management of a company that they acquire, but they provide funding for their growth. Has anybody heard about that? Do we have any concerns? Has Workday talked to us about that, or do we have concerns about maybe anything that they might change in their support or that sort of thing?
I can comment briefly on it. And as you mentioned, it is fairly recent news, so we don't have a lot of information yet on what this looks like per se. But I don't have any particular concerns, particularly what our areas of focus are in terms of implementation and sort of how we see ourselves using the platform that exists today. That's commercially available. One thing about Workday and these cloud ERP products is that we use the same version that everybody uses, right? So we don't have our own separate version that we need to maintain. They do that for us and so on. I think one of the things though that it does reflect just in terms of the overall ERP product area is how much it is in flux, particularly because of new technologies like AI and other things that have the capability of really enhancing and transforming the way a lot of back-end processes and other things work. Workday has been kind of at the forefront as it relates to different technologies and tools that they have as part of their platform, and I see this as a potential opportunity for them to add some additional resources to that research and development effort, as well as sort of how they see, really taking the lead or extending their lead in a lot of the areas where they already have done some development. So I don't see it necessarily as a negative. I think it again is it's a huge company that handles thousands of customers. We have the benefit of being on the same platform that they all are on, and that they have a large customer base upon which to build sort of the future of their platform. And even within just higher ed, we're part of a growing and a large and growing customer base just in higher ed, and we've seen significant strides in their student platform and continue to expect that we'll see continued expansion and improvement in that area.
Mary Beth, you have your hand up and
Yes, thank you, Trustee Mahali, and thank you, everyone.
by the way, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Mary Beth Lennox Levins, and I am a full-time faculty liaison from VTSU. And I think that it is obvious that Wilson's team has worked incredibly hard to implement Workday, which I'm also on the school board here in Rutland City, and we have gone through some similar changes, and I know that they are incredibly difficult changes and systems to update. I do want to note that I think, and I want to make a connection back to what President Coleman said earlier in the meeting, and that some of our operational challenges have really, I think, affect our enrollment, particularly with the traditional residential colleges. And this is one of them. I've been trying to get a graduate assistant position posted for 3 months, and it's not yet posted, and we start next week. So I don't have a GA. I'm a full-time faculty member running 2 programs and teaching an overload of 7 or 8 credits this semester. I think it's important that the board understands the reality and the chancellor understands the reality of what's going on the ground. here at VTSU. I see that the postings for the graduate assistants for the athletic departments have just been posted 7 days ago. I'm not sure we quite understand what those people do, but those grad assistants are essential in recruitment for student athletes, which are particularly at Castleton, a significant portion of our student body. And so I'm not blaming anyone on Wilson's team. I clearly don't want to come across as that, but these operational issues that do present challenges, they are real challenges to enrollment. And I think I would be remiss as a liaison to not do my job and make sure that you all are aware of what these operational challenges present to the day-to-day boots on the ground faculty, as well as our coaches, who I think work incredibly hard to bring in enrollment, as well as, of course, our amazing admissions team. I'm not putting anybody down. I just want to bring to light that these challenges are out there and happening. This group does amazing work. I can't make a lot of the meetings because I teach at 8, 9, and 10 and 12 on Mondays. So I'm like, let me get on today and try to make this one. But and I thought it was a very important one. I didn't plan to speak today, but again, with the implementation of Workday, I did want to highlight and thank everybody who worked hard on it. And also, there's no button there, and also highlight the challenges that are real on the ground for the folks implementing this. Like I said, mine is anecdotal, but I did go on earlier today to see if mine was posted, and I did notice the GAs for athletics were just posted 7 days ago, and football started already, and there's a football GA on there, and I mean, there's nobody that recruits harder than our football team at Castleton and brings in, sometimes they account for, I don't know, over 100 students on our campus. So anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Appreciate everything that everybody's doing. Welcome, President Coleman. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I think I'm on a call with you tomorrow for graduate council. And anyway, thanks everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mary Beth. I think it's all of our hope that the ERP will help with these issues. But there was a comedian who once remarked that the future lies ahead, and I think that's apt here. Wilson, is there anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate your comments, and I know, and Mary commented that, for the issues that we have had, obviously, for the people that are having the issues, those are significant, and in this case, graduate assistance is an important part of how we do our work every day on campus. So thank you for raising that. There's no perfect time to implement a new ERP, and obviously before a semester is one of those things that's made it a challenge, particularly as we change fiscal years and all of those things. So I appreciate your patience as we work through this, and we'll continue to make improvements in how we handle the things that everybody relies on.
Are there anybody else would like to make any comment before we move on? Well, anyway, congratulations are due. I was very impressed when Mary said that you're talking about accuracy, payroll accuracy, well north of 95%, right? That's extraordinary, and it's wonderful to see that our nightmares when they don't happen, that's really great. Particularly in such a fraught area as ERP implementation. So Wilson, congratulations for you and your team.
Thank you.
So I'm going to continue. I don't know, did we lose David? I don't see him. Kayla, do we have a quorum?
I will check now.
I mean, we can hear things without a quorum. We can't act.
We do have a quorum. Yes.
Right.
We did lose Dave.
So the next item is the RFP for the new housing on the Johnson campus. The executive committee of the board previously authorized the administration to move forward with a request for proposal that's looking for a private development partner for new housing on the Johnson campus. And then that RFP was released just last week.
Yes.
The project contemplates 30 units of market rate housing on our land, on VSC owned land. And under the proposed structure, VSC would contribute the site through a long-term ground lease. And so we would retain the land and a limited contribution towards design and pre-development. So the developer would be responsible for financing, constructing, and owning and operating. So this item today is for administration and it's for information. And Barry, it's my understanding you're on deck here to provide an update on the RFP process and the next steps.
Sure, very happy to. Thank you. So as you noted, the RFP was released publicly last week. The way the process works is that when it went out, people have a chance to read through it and come back and ask us questions. Those questions are due near the end of August 28th. We'll have a few days to then publicly answer all those questions so everybody gets the same information at the same time. And then if developers are interested in pursuing it, they would owe their proposals to us by September 11th. We would take our time to go through a short list, do our interviews, do our due diligence, and hopefully select somebody by the end of September. It will take time after that to develop a term sheet, get everything nailed down. But if it works as planned, we would be coming to the November committee meeting with our final selected contractor and the details of what that deal would look like. If we don't make the November meeting, we likely would need a special meeting because it is very important that construction start in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And just given the time for schematic design and development, for a contractor to do that in the spring, they really need to be told this fall if they've been selected. Does that lay it out for you and for everyone else?
So what you would bring to the board is the term sheet.
The term sheet, the final contractor that was selected.
The final contract.
Yeah. Well, not the final contract, the final contractor with the term sheet.
All right, yeah. Does the board actually, Patty, I don't know, we actually do we have to approve the final document itself? That is the contract.
Yep, that is, well, no, typically the board approves the major terms and authorizes the chancellor. Yes, because there's so many details there.
Sure, yeah.
But we would be seeking board approval for those for the parameters of the contract.
Do you, as I remember in the executive committee meeting, we were suggesting that the RFP ask for business terms. Did that happen? Did the RFP ask for business terms?
I believe, I don't know if you saw the RFP, Trustee Mahali, but the RFP does have certain terms in there, and then we're seeking basically a proposed plan from them because it is more than just putting up a building.
Right.
Yes.
Are there any comments on this item? This is going to be on this information item, Beth, is on the board meeting calendar, right? Or Lynn, it's on our calendar for the board meeting.
Yes, I think so.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have an executive session for a couple of things.
Right, and it's okay. Is it a report? Is it part of our report to the board? Or is it just an independent item?
It's both.
Okay, great.
I think there is a real independent report from the chancellor.
Right. Well, this is a great opportunity and I'm glad it's moving along. I hope you get it. I hope. So what, again, Barry, when is the information request? In other words, if there are questions?
They're due back to us on August 28th.
I guess that's when we'll know whether anybody comes to the party.
Yep.
Right. Which is always you worry about. Yeah, right. any other questions on this matter before I ask, is there any other business? We're going to go into executive session. Any other business that anyone wants to bring up before we move to executive session? Hearing none, I guess I'm going to move that the committee, the Finance and Facilities Committee, enter executive session pursuant to 1 VSA 313A2 to discuss real estate. And also 1 VSA 313 A6 to discuss records which are exempt from Public Records Act. Along with the members of the board present at this meeting, in its discretion, the board invites the chancellor, the presidents of CCV, BTSU, the chief financial and operating officer, and general counsel to attend the executive session. We don't expect that action will be taken following the session, but we will reconvene to adjourn. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
All those in favor of entering executive session, please say aye or raise your hand. Thank you. So Kayla, can you move us to executive?
We all here?
Okay, we just got out of executive session and we are now, there was no action that is to be taken following the session now. And so I'm announcing adjournment of the meeting, and the board itself is ready to meet, shall we say, within 2 or 3 minutes, just a few minutes. We'll have the board as a whole. Do we need to change our, do we need to, can we just stay on the screen and others will join us, or how do we do this?
Yes, we'll stay on this call. As soon as we have a quorum, we can begin the board meeting.
Okay. So,
They have six.
do we, at this point, I guess I'm going to turn this over to you, Lynn. And David, are you at this point able to present the report of the, I don't have it up, but I assume that there's a report of this committee. Let me just see.
Just while you're looking at that, I don't know what's going to get voted on and what the quorums are, etc. But I do have to be away from 11 to 11:30. So, but I will come back.
There's a report, item number 5, David, is a report of the Finance and Facilities Committee. Do you want to give that, or do you need me to give it? David? Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Thank
Okay.
you. Lynn, you're in charge.
Okay, I'm just going to get this started. The only thing that I just want to say before we get started is that the only thing we have a motion on seems to be the approval of the minutes.
Are we in session yet?
Well, we're going to be in session in just a second.
Okay.
And I don't see any other approvals, but the finance stuff is important and the executive session is important, but we'll see how we get to that. Okay, so I'm going to call the Vermont State College Board of Trustees meeting to attention.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
What?
I don't believe we have a quorum, so it's just a.
No, we don't have a quorum.
Okay.
Well, now we have Cam here, so we have 1, 2. I think we have 7.
Did Trustee Devereaux join? Because then we do have I
Yes.
believe we do.
Okay. Yeah, Trustee Devereaux is to be here. Yes, she's here.
We do have a quorum with Trustee Devereaux.
7. Okay. Well, we are then an official meeting. Okay. The Vermont State College Board of Trustees meeting is being called to order on Monday, August 17th at 10:40. A little bit late, but thanks for all the patience. We just came out of Finance and Facilities meeting. We happen to have a vacant board-appointed seat that is vacant, and there will be a nominating committee to deal with that in the next few weeks. Is there any public comment, Kayla?
No one has signed up in advance. Is there anyone on the call who would like to make a comment?
Okay.
I'm seeing none.
Okay, now, so we need a motion to approve the minutes of June 8th. I need someone to make a motion and a second to approve those
So
minutes.
moved. So moved.
Okay, Trustee Zeller moves. I need a second.
Second, John Kosenska.
Okay, John Kosenska, Trustee Kosenska approves. Any questions or any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. We are missing Trustee Mahali. Does that matter? Patty?
Yes, if we are only at 8 total, and that includes Trustee Mahali, we do need the full quorum to vote in favor of something, or we do not actually have a correct authorized vote.
Okay, well, he took off. He's coming back, I'm sure. Why don't we postpone that? We'll go on to the executive committee report. We had an executive committee on July 28th. We discussed in executive session, negotiation on securing
Aye.
real estate. Am I okay on this? Does David Silverman on the David Silverman's not here either?
Trustee Mahali and Silverman are logged into the call. Do we think they're not there?
Well, I can't see David Silverman, Trustee Silverman. I can see an empty chair for Trustee Mahali.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the issue
Here he
is that-
comes. Here he comes.
okay. And then that will make 8, is that right? Because Trustee Silverman, we're not sure can participate. He may be hearing us, but he's supposed to be able to participate. That's the way that.
Here somewhere. I don't see him on the list.
We have 8 if we include Trustee Silverman. He does appear to be absent.
Yes. He does appear. So we still have only 7. Is that correct?
We have 7 without Trustee Silverman.
Okay, we will not worry about the minutes. However, I will continue with number 4, which is the executive committee meeting, and we did have a meeting on July 28th. Most of it is executive session regarding real estate. I'm going to go and also indicate that we also had an approval of an online faculty agreement, which we did vote on, and that was approved. I don't know, does Patty want to talk about that agreement? But there he is, David Silverman's back. Good. Patty, I'm going to ask you, is it possible to talk about that agreement? It was ratified and it's now all set.
I'm happy to do that. It is ratified. It's all set. The union also voted to approve that collective bargaining agreement, which extends the VTSU online faculty agreement through August of 2029.
Okay, now we have 8 trustees. So can I ask for another motion? Trustee Zeller? So moved. Accepting the minutes of June 8th. And I had a second from Trustee Kozenska. Second. Okay. Any discussion or questions on those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes of June 8th, please indicate by saying aye. Raise your hands. Okay. So now we have a report from the Finance and Facilities Committee. Is David Silverman able to make that presentation, or will it turn to Trustee Mahali? Trustee Silverman, can you hear me? Are you? Good. You want to make that report?
Trustee Silverman messaged that he is unable to.
Okay, we'll turn to Trustee Mahali. You're muted. There you are.
We have a quorum, right?
Yes.
So, the Finance and Facilities Committee heard unaudited preliminary financial reports for fiscal year 2026. And those reports showed us where we thought we'd be. Down from budget on enrollment, and but when that enrollment lower than budgeted enrollment number was compared with an increase in state appropriations, the last 5 million in state appropriations, we essentially are on budget, in fact, just slightly ahead. This is in part due to lower numbers for salaries and benefits, which for VTSU, which are kind of the result of not fully implementing changes that have to change, but really Sherry Coleman is going to have to be in charge of that. There were less investment in um, subsidy for students, and that it's not a good thing. But again, Sherry anticipates that will improve. We also had a report of the Workday implementation project, which was really an excellent report. Basically, things are going as they should. There have been something like 98% accuracy in payroll, other things. By the way, I didn't mention CCV's budget was excellent. They're right on budget. But anyway, the Workday implementation is proceeding as it should. And we were impressed that people were paid what they needed to be paid mostly. There were really a lot of heroic work by the team to deal with individual cases, which were pretty much what you'd expect. That is, people who didn't understand the system, didn't know where to find things, etc. There were over 1,000 cases like that, but that was, if anything, less than was expected. We heard we had an update on the RFP for new housing on the Johnson campus, and then moved into executive session. And I guess our recommendations relating to real estate will be held will be transmitted when we have the executive session of this body.
Are there any
Lynn,
questions?
what have I forgotten?
I think you got most of it, almost all of it. We're working on enrollment. Any questions? Anything else? Would Barry like to add anything to that, or is that?
No, thank you for asking. I think Trustee Mahali got it all.
Okay, good, excellent. We're going to turn this now to the Chancellor to discuss a little bit more about the Johnson Housing RFP that we just put out.
Actually, I think I will pass it to Barry for
Okay.
discussion.
So sure. So the system has issued an RFP to develop new housing on the Johnson campus. It's 30 units at market rate. And I believe everybody got the RFP, but you can go through and see the number of 1-bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and the various size. The project is budgeted somewhere between 10.5 to rounding 11 million. We expect that after we've released it, we will get questions back from interested parties by August 28th. We will turn those around and a couple days later tell everybody the questions and the answers. And then by the middle of September, September 11th, anybody who is actually interested will be submitting their RFP to us. We'll go through, do a short list, select who to interview. We will finalize that by the end of September so that hopefully at the November meeting, we can come back to the board, to the Finance and Facilities Committee, and give our recommendation of which contractor and what proposed term sheet we intend to go forward with. It is very important, forget my voice, that construction begin in the spring. So if for any reason things slip and we don't make the November meeting, we will ask the board for a special meeting. Anything about this incredibly exciting project, the first of its kind for a long, long time, that you would like to know more about?
I would like to point out that we got $600,000 in the budget for 2027 to help with the planning and the processing of all of this RFP material so that we can actually make some choices and get started on something that would be an important source of housing for faculty, staff, students, and probably for the community as well. So,
yes. And forgive me, I probably should have pointed out what Trustee Mahali did raise. The university is retaining the land. This would be a ground lease to the developer. So the value of that ground lease is around 600,000. The 500,000 to 600,000 that you just mentioned brings the university's contribution to around 1 or 1.1 million.
Okay. Any questions? We will be discussing this in greater detail, among other things, in the executive session. Thank you. We are going to enter executive session, and I move the Vermont State College Board of Trustees enter executive session pursuant to 1 VSA 313A, 1E, and F, because premature general public knowledge would place the VSC at a substantial disadvantage to discuss civil litigation and receive confidential attorney-client communications pursuant to 1 VSA 313A2 to discuss real estate, and pursuant to 1 VSA 313A6 to discuss records which are exempt from Public Records Act. Along with the members of the board present at this meeting, in its discretion, the board invites the chancellor, the presidents of CCV and VTSU, the chief financial and operating officer, and the general counsel to attend. I need a second to that, please. Trustee Zeller has seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we will vote to go into executive session. All those indicate by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Okay, we can go into the executive session. There does not seem to be an action expected to be taken following the executive session. Okay, let's go in.
I'm working on adding a few more trustees. Please bear with me.
Is everybody back? Let's see. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Okay, is there any other business that anyone wants to bring up? Seeing none, I will announce the adjournment of the meeting, and we will see each other again sometime soon. Thank you.